Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. We are here today. It is Monday. I made it to Portland, Maine from Charlotte this morning. It's kind of hard to believe that yesterday I woke up in Atlanta and drove to Charlotte, and now I'm in Portland. It's been a lot of travel, but, tour. How you
How
doing,
many
Neil?
miles is that? Have you looked up the number of miles it is? Seems like a
No,
lot.
I also don't know the number of kilometers, which is a real unit of measurement.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
We're gonna do that bit. Well, you're at least in a nice rustic recording studio
Yes.
today. I mean, it
Shout
looks
out to
very
Sully.
professional.
Thank you for having me at your house for the next couple of days, and thank you for giving me this nice office to do the pod in.
But AAT crushing it at temporary pod locations.
Yeah.
D the other day with the finest looking office I've ever seen.
The
You in a
Sweetwater
rustic
Brewery.
recording studio. I mean, this is all great.
Yeah, we're doing great, and we're
I'm
going
at
to talk
home,
about.
my
Oh
blank
yeah.
wall.
Well, I mean, listen, there's something to be said about a blank wall for a podcast. And our two guests today, this is a good segue. Our two guests today also have some great backgrounds going. Actually, we have three guests. There's two boxes, but we've got our very good friend Megan and her daughter Gemma making a pod debut, and we've got John here, who also are those vinyls on the wall in the background?
I mean, yeah,
they are. Yeah, I think there's I think Drip Field's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Solitary meal. There we go. That's what we're doing today. How's everybody doing?
Great. Good. We're doing amazing. We had so much fun last night. I got to take Gemma to her first Goose show.
Very exciting. Gemma, it was your first total jam band show, right?
Yes.
Yes. So for those, obviously, if you don't know Megan, you probably should. But if you don't, Megan is co-host of HF Pod, and her children have listened to her talk about a lot of fish without caring very much.
That seems fair.
So it was very exciting. I was excited that Gemma was coming to her first show last night, and I'm very excited that you wanted to be on the pod today. We're starting family dynasties here pretty soon. Gemma's going to be starting a podcast, and then that's going to be it.
It's true. RJ said you were born for it, Gemma. So
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how today goes, I guess.
Exactly. This is the test.
No pressure.
Well, let's start by talking about the pre-show sweat box that was Charlotte yesterday. Let's start with you, John. What did you do before the show? Did you try to stay in air conditioning as long as possible?
We did, and I got the sense a lot of people were doing that. So it was like upper 90s heat index. It was sweltering outside yesterday. So we actually pulled into the main lot there and just had a couple drinks in the car in the air conditioning. Not really an ideal tailgating spot, but I honestly I got the sense that a lot of other folks did the same thing. When you're walking into the venue there, I got the sense that a lot of people had just been inside the whole day, and it was kind of like, oh, we're outside, this is great. But it was sweltering. I think I have a feeling a lot of people had that experience.
Yeah, it was my dad and I drove up from Atlanta in the morning, and we got to Charlotte, and we're sitting in our hotel room, and he's like, why are we sitting inside? Like, it's such a beautiful day. Like, we should go outside. And I was like, Rob, it's not beautiful out. Like, we're going to go outside and we're going to be like, oh my God, like, can't be out here until after the show. Like, we're leaving the hotel room at the last minute. And so, yeah, then we came and we met up with you guys at the brewery right next to the venue, which surprised a lot of other people had the same idea.
Yeah. It was really packed, but it was not our first stop of the afternoon. Gemma, you want to tell them?
I don't understand why we left at 2 for a concert that started at 7:45. But we went to like 2 different breweries.
Yeah.
So very hot. It's just
clearly you don't know your mom very well if you think that she's going to wait until right before the show starts to go out and see people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have pre-show anxiety, Gemma, and it starts really early. So I like to leave the house very early, especially when I'm bringing a group of, I think there was, how many of us were there? 6 women, 4 of which have never been to a jam band show. We're going early. You got to get the whole experience, So we went early. We went to 2 breweries, maybe a bit aggressive, especially for teens who don't drink. So it was a lot, but you stuck it out. But we stayed inside at both of those places because they were pretty hot, but they were very packed.
We had a bit of a lag in energy before we headed into the venue. Like there was like some like fatigue happening. We were like sitting inside at the brewery. What was it called? VBGB.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, just like sitting at the table and everyone was just kind of like not talking very much after a while and just kind of like, lethargic.
Yeah, we got some sweet potato fries though, and they
Definitely
perked up.
overheating.
Yeah, overheating for sure. But I think once we got to the venue, I know you were saying you really felt like your energy picked up.
I mean, I think that it was the ice cream in the packet.
That was so weird.
What was that?
Tell them what
I
you ordered.
ordered soft serve, and then I was like, "Do you have sprinkles?" And they're like, "No," and I was like, "That's weird." But then they handed us like a yogurt packet, and it was like soft serve on the go.
Like what babies
Yeah,
eat.
that makes sense.
Like those pouches. Food. That's what the ice cream was in.
I was like, "That's why there's no sprinkles." Yep.
Yeah,
It's
that
weird.
explains the no sprinkles thing. But I mean,
Yeah.
I've never heard of such a thing. Is this like in the South kind of thing, or is it just like purely at this venue? I
No,
wonder.
John, have you
Don't
have
know.
any experience with this? I've never seen this before in my life.
I've never seen this before in my life either. This was actually my first show at this venue. I've been to a few at the Fillmore, which people don't love in Charlotte. It's kind
I
of a weird
hate it
venue.
Yeah.
I didn't
But,
realize until yesterday that the amphitheater was literally like on the same property as the Fillmore,
Yeah.
which is where Goose played last time they were in Charlotte. And that place was like oversold and a billion degrees and no good sight lines. So this was a very nice change of pace, despite the heat.
Yeah.
I thought the sight lines were great. Obviously I feel like I would have had a different experience if I got stuck in like the back corner of the lawn or, somewhere off to the side. But I thought it was great.
It's a pretty perfect size. What is it, like capacity 5,000 or
It
something?
was like
It's
around 5K, yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty great. There's not a bad seat in the house. And we were in section 103, row 16, and it was incredible. Like we were so close. The pit's really small, and even the lawn small. I think you were surprised
It
about
was
that.
a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I've been, because we were really close. Like I've been to like MSG and Barclay Center. That's it. So I was like surprised by like how close it was. And that was my first outdoor concert. So
Ooh.
I definitely thought the lawn was going
Nice.
to be bigger.
Mm-hmm. John, you said you were on the lawn?
I was on the lawn. This was actually my first Goose show that I've attended.
Oh, welcome.
I've listened to,
Wow.
I've probably listened to 100 shows or something like that, but this was my first time seeing them. And so I thought the crowd was really interesting. I was kind of expecting a bunch of like 40-year-old white dudes, like when you go to a Fish concert. But it was a really cool crowd, kind of all ages and types of people were getting down to different aspects of the music. It was a lot of fun, and the lawn was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, that is something I wanted to talk about. It's something I've been noticing lately is that the demographic of Goose shows has been changing a lot really over the past year. Obviously it's still mostly middle-aged white dudes. But there's a lot more. Yeah. Hi, Neil.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem.
I'm that target demographic. So it's like more Ryans and Gemmas,
Yeah.
and less folks like me. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot more people closer to my age, which is really cool as somebody, who, not that I don't love hanging out with people who are older than me, but it's cool also to meet people around my age at shows and be like, well, like you're also really into this kind of stuff, where they're like, a couple of years ago, there was like pretty much no one. So really, really cool to see the demographic shifts. And I'm curious even what a Goose audience will look like a year from now or 2 years from now. Given how much has changed lately.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think there's a
absolutely.
lot of like, younger people there. I was surprised. A lot of people on there like look like they were in college and 20s.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I heard like people in front of us talking about how they were like going to college around there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think also, similar, we talked about after the Raleigh show last week, how there were a lot of like college dudes in the crowd. Like I think Goose is attracting that kind of demographic right now in a lot of places. There was some chomping last night.
Yeah, for sure.
It happens.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of chomping, lots of photos being taken.
Yes. Well, by you.
Maybe
Not the chomping part, the photo part.
I'm definitely not a chomper, but I'm definitely a photo taker. But I don't take a lot of photos like during the show, I will say.
Right. Yeah, there was one good one. What was it? Your sister took a really good candid of you, like mid motion, that I saw on Instagram today.
Yeah, that was really fun. I had so much fun having my sister there and watching my sister and my sister-in-law and my kids in my universe. It was like two worlds colliding. It was great. It was really special.
Well, let's dive into the show here. Let's start off with the first few songs here. We'll start with you, John. Earthling or Alien, Lead Up, Turn Clouds. First 3 songs. What did you think?
I thought the Earthling was a fantastic opener. Nice funky jam. I feel like I love the funk. I love the clavinet. I love it. A lot of times it's kind of the side dish, like it either comes before something or after something. On this one, it was all about the funk, and they really just dove headstrong into it. So I love the Earthling opener. I don't think that's a song they open with super frequently. It's usually like a first set song, but everyone was getting down. This wasn't quite the Swansea version or something like that, but kind of a good thing to get started. Next one was Lead Up. This is a fun, kind of 5-minute ripper. Rick brought the heat, towards the end of the song. It was a fun song. A lot of people were kind of like, singing along, and it was a good time. And then Turn Clouds is another one. Some of the folks around me didn't know the song, so I was kind of telling them, hey, the song's not over yet. There's this like really cool organ part that's about to start. So that was kind of fun. But always love that song. I always think Rick, sings the hell out of it, and it always sounds really good. So it was a good start. I think for me, my favorite was the Earthling to get started, but of the first 3, yeah.
Heavy dose of clav, which I was happy about, especially the last bunch of versions have been very OB6 heavy, which I also love. But of course, clav. Gemma, what were your thoughts on the first few songs here?
Well, I had a little bit of trouble telling the different songs apart, just like throughout the whole time. But I liked the third song, which my mom told me was Turned Clouds.
Yes.
I thought that one was good. And then I took notes. That's what I'm looking at. And then I wrote that I liked another, but I didn't know what number it was. Mom said it was Yeti. So I liked that
We'll
one.
get there. We're not there yet. We've got it. We've got lots to talk about that Yeti. But Megan, your thoughts on the first few songs here to open the show?
Yeah, I was interested to see how it was going to be. I, had a little bit lower expectations for this show just because they came off a 3-night run in Atlanta that was pretty hot. And I talked to Getty after the show, and he said that they had a 3-hour turnaround from load out in Atlanta to load in Charlotte.
Oh my.
So they were really, really tired. And so I just felt like, wow, they've been pushing really hard. So I was surprised the energy actually in this first set and throughout the whole show, to be honest. But I thought they really brought it. It was funny when they started with Earthling. I turned to Gemma and I was like, so some of us kind of feel funny about the beginning of the song, but we really usually like the jam. And I think that was true last night. Yeah, the clap, just so much fun. I thought Peter's been just sounding amazing. I'm excited to talk more about that as we go on. But I love a radio song, sing along, and lead up. And Turn Clouds, I feel like, is a really good song. If you don't know a lot of Goose, it's kind of a good entryway to Goose. So I was glad that they played that. I think it's kind of like palatable. It's kind of like easy to jump onto. And yeah, that was good.
Yeah, definitely. I thought the band definitely you could tell that they were a little bit tired, coming off of Atlanta. I didn't realize about the 3-hour turnaround. I said hi to Getty and Loomis on the way out. They were just like, everyone's just exhausted right now. That was part of the reason why they went on a little late. Like by the second set ended up being a little short. They were just like, they had to get moving, and they were like, which happens. Big weekend. But I thought it was just solid first set stuff. I'd like to address this from Vickers. Not every bit of ambient noise is a manatee. Just for the record. Yes, there was a little bit of ambient noise before Rick started playing Lead Up. It's not a Manatees. But I would like for them to play Manu for one.
Yeah, me too. Awesome. I'm here for that.
Yeah. Neil, you got any thoughts on these first 3?
No, not really. I mean, interesting they chose to tack another show on at the end of a 3-show run.
Right, without taking a day off, yeah.
Yeah, that feels like maybe they won't do that again. I don't know.
Well, they're doing it in the fall. They're doing 3 in Chicago and then Minneapolis the next night. So
right, which that feels very, very hard, especially for the crew, because they've got several days off, which means they're just partying, right? They've got like a 3-show run. Like those guys are just hanging out for a couple days. Then all of a sudden they have a whole mess of work and they're exhausted. Then they got to do a whole other show. I don't know. In any case, I digress. 3 songs to lead off. I mean, Earthling or Alien. I had a feeling that was coming. A lot of this show was like songs that I expected them to play because they
Yeah.
want to come back around and play them one more time before the tour ends. So saw that one coming. Lead up also always really cool in the first set. Turn Clouds early in the first set, pretty interesting. Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
I was expecting the Earthling to go really hard because the last one they played went real hard, but this one didn't, and I think that was a sign of just I think how gassed everybody is right now.
I mean, it wasn't,
Yeah.
like they didn't sound tired by any means, but yeah, it didn't get out there at all. But we get Yeti next, and I was very excited about this Yeti because for those who may not know, the Mutron is back. Rick has the Mutron again. He took it off his board like 2 years ago for unexplained reasons. And he was, he clicked it on for this, the first I've heard of it, this tour during Yeti. And you could tell he was just loving using that effect. For those who don't know, that's like the envelope filter, like the Jerry Ottawa sound. And he was just ripping this Yeti. It's funny because, we've gotten these Funk Jam Yetis this year, and this one felt kind of like, it got into more of like standard Yeti territory towards the end, but like with Rick soloing instead of Peter. But it was interesting. Let's throw it back to you, Megan, first for this Yeti. What did you think?
I love this. I thought 2-guitar Goose just sounding great here. I've been loving Peter when he's been on the guitar this tour. He sounds great. He's just adding a lot of depth to the sound, doing such a good job in rhythm guitar. And I also thought he sounded really great in New Hampshire, just on the keys and the guitar. I think he just is really locked in right now. I loved how this had like a super funk sound to it. And when they started to go back to the song, they really stretched it out and took their time with it. You could hear them like hinting at it, but they were like happy to sit in that funk and not totally just drop into the Yeti chords again. It was so nice. And then when they came in, it was just so clean. And it was just, I love this jam. I listened to it again this afternoon. It's really nice.
Awesome. Gemma, so you said you really liked Yeti.
Yeah, I liked that song. Yeah, I think I like I definitely listen to more music that's just like focused around like words and like lyrics instead of like more the musical instruments. So I think like I liked the words, and I also think that like it's cool to see how they kind of like go back and forth between just doing what they want with their instruments and then also staying within the song.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. John, what did you think of the Yeti?
I loved it. Couple things stood out to me. The first was Peter's kind of like palm muting, picking that one note, very percussive playing early in the jam was a lot of fun. That Stratocaster is like a super percussive kind of sound. That was awesome. And then I was super stoked when I heard the Mutron kick on. I'm a big Grateful Dead fan, big fan of the Mutron. I have one over there. It's a lot of fun. I knew he had one on his board a while back. I know some of those like late 2021 jams, you hear it. At some point, I think it came off, but yeah, it took me a second because it sounds, it sounds a little bit like a wah pedal, and so I'm like, does he have it back on? And then, it kind of registered with me. I don't think the people around me were like, oh, that's the Mutron, but they were getting down, and it was a funky dance party, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think at some point during that jam, I think he cranked it up a little bit more because there's some like serious like laser beam type sounds there at the end when he's like hitting some chords, and it's just like, it's crazy. But it was a lot of fun. It was I was freaking out hearing the Mutron back. I was excited.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something that I've been waiting to talk about. Shout out to friend of the pod, Dave Keaty. He and I have been talking about the Mutron for like a year and a half now, but like, where is it? And so I texted him as soon as I heard it last night. I was like, it's back. Look.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, very exciting. Neil, what did you think of Yeti?
Not much to say that hasn't already been said. What I do like about Yeti this year versus last year is how it has been reworked, and it feels like a set highlight now.
Right.
Which is crazy because I think for a while it was just like, oh, it's like Yeti again. Like, and now it's just like a really fun song to throw in the middle of a set, maybe at the end of a set, to just like pep things up and get everybody moving. And, Trevor bass, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So good. And it's just like another excuse for him to do his thing, which is great. Yeah, definitely neat that the Mutron is back. I mean, it's a funny thing, having played electric guitar for a good chunk of my life, having an envelope filter on your board is like I don't know. It's like the super fun thing to have. So it's weird that like he took it off in the first place. Like I remember when I got my first envelope filter, I didn't turn the thing off for like 3 months. It's just it's just so cool. So yeah, cool that it's back. I don't know. It's a neat sound and also interesting that he's being so thoughtful about his sound right now.
Yeah.
That like
Yeah.
things are getting worked in and worked out. And like I think some of that is they've got a lot more help around these days. They've got guitar techs who are doing things. Ryan, you've seen like what Trevor's done to his pedal board, and like there's folks there who are helping them. I like as a guitar player.
That's Will, the guitar tech, and
Will, the guitar tech. Yeah. So like my pedal board doesn't look all nice and neat. It's just like a series of pedals, all like the wires are like knotted and like it just looks awful. Yeah. But they got nice, neat stuff, and they got guys doing it for them. So it's really cool.
That's what happens when you have a successful band and you can pay to organize your cables for you. Right. Set continues here, or finishes off rather, with Born, Love's a Battlefield, Butter Rum. Our first kind of extended jam of the night in Born. Kind of, sticking to that 2001 vibe for a while and getting to a nice little blissy progression. Some people were saying Praise You, or was it Blue Monday? Were you guys talking about, Neil?
Somebody threw that out there. I didn't hear it.
All
I listened again today.
CCPs here, but nice little bliss vintage vibe jam, as the sun was setting. So love a nice sunset, Born. Love is a Battlefield. Not my favorite cover that they do, but people were digging it. Of course, it's like a song that a lot of people know. Also a 97 show, Bust Out, last played in Philly last year, the infamous Philly Echo show. And then Butter Rum, which I didn't expect given how long the set was, given that curfew was at 11. But they did it. Jam was pretty good. But yeah, John, what did you think of the last three songs of the set here?
Yeah, the Born was, really interesting. I love that they've kind of reverted back to how they used to jam this song, kind of like 2022 timeframe, because it kind of went through some different iterations there. Now they've got that super melodic part coming out of the song, and then the 2001 type jam. I thought the jam was fun. There's some really pretty kind of ambient guitar from Rick early in the jam, and then you do hear a little bit of Mutron there for a second early in the jam. I thought the jam itself, kind of the middle part, really reminded me almost of like an Old Man's Boat jam a little bit, with like kind of how the chords sounded and the vintage vibe, as you mentioned. Kind of a laid back, not quite major, not quite minor, kind of somewhere in between. It was a cool jam. The Love is a Battlefield was a fun cover. I share your thoughts, Ryan. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite cover, but that's kind of the fun of going to these shows, is like you never know what cover you're gonna get. And Goose, kind of pulls these covers out, and you're just like, whoa. And there were tons of people in the lawn that really were excited and were shouting the lyrics, and a lot of people know the song. So that was a lot of fun. And then the Butter Rum was a lot of fun. My wife, it's my wife's favorite song, and so we were saying before the show, maybe they'll play Butter Rum, and I was like, we'll see. They have a lot of songs. So she was really excited about that. They recently jammed this one out. I think it was in Omaha, so it wasn't completely, surprising that it went a little bit out. I too thought the first set was going to be over, so I was excited to get another one. The one thing that really stood out to me about the Butter Rum at the end was I've noticed there's been quite a few jams this tour where Cotter's kind of keeping some really interesting percussive beat that's like kind of busy, kind of complex, and then all of a sudden he'll lock into this like super driving, kind of like more driving rock beat, and that happened on the Butter Rum. It's happened a few other times. I know the Raleigh Pancakes was one more recently, but that was really cool, and kind of was a great way to end the set.
Amazing. Gemma, your turn. Your thoughts on the last few songs, the first set.
Well, I kind of knew Born because my mom sent me Dripfield like before the show, like kind of to listen to. So I was familiar with that one. And then I definitely knew Butter Rum because that played a lot in my house during COVID. So that was always on.
Megan exposed for listening to Butter Rum.
I was just listening to a lot of Goose on like Spotify or Apple Music or whatever was playing. And that song always came up. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. And I went to the bathroom during Butter Rum last night. Just, I think I'm done with that song. Yeah.
I like that one. I think it's fun vibe, very like summery. So I liked that one. I was glad they played it because it was like, just like good vibes.
Mm-hmm.
It
It's
is.
nice for an outdoor show.
It's okay to like butter rum.
It is okay to like. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
especially
I mean,
now. I mean,
It's
there's
fun.
this
It's a
one
fun
had, like,
song.
I'm
It had a
teasing.
really good jam in it. So that's the thing. Like, you may not like the song, you may find the lyrics like a little bit silly, but the jam is always really good. So it's worth it. I think this one was a little fiery. It was fun, but yeah, Born, excellent always, and not as excellent as previous versions, unfortunately, but still excellent. Always love it. Love is a Battlefield. I don't know. I
Me
love it throwing
too,
into a
Neil.
show.
Me
And maybe
too.
it's because of like how old I am, but like when I think of like Love is a Battlefield, I think of like being in like West End Pizza in Bristol, Connecticut, like playing it on a jukebox with like
Yeah.
quarters. But yeah, I don't know. It reminds me, reminds me of the 80s. It's like so quintessentially 80s. How could you hate on the song?
I know. There was
Wonderful.
such an 80s vibe last night, which I'm excited to talk about later. But I think Love's a Battlefield, to me, I have those same feelings, Neil. It's very nostalgic for me. I want to like sing it out loud. It reminds me of being in like the backseat of my parents' station wagon, like screaming at the top of my lungs. So I was totally here for it. But I thought the Born was really beautiful. Always makes me laugh when Jeff gets on guitar. It's like everybody in Goose wants to play guitar. It's just so great. But I think that when they found that patient space, I just hear them sitting in these spaces more. And I was really lucky and got to talk to Peter in an interview I'm going to put out soon. And he talked about how the band in general is just feeling more willing to sit in these spaces, and that there's just a trust growing and a real feeling of patience within them when they're playing. And you can really hear that. And I loved Cotter in this jam. He's doing these fills that are just beautiful and really rolling and adding so much. And that with the sunset behind it, it was really vibey. I loved it.
So I was going to ask, actually, not on the podcast, but since you brought it up, I do want to ask, because I went actually looking yesterday for your interview with Peter. When can we expect this
Ooh,
interview with Peter, this moment?
putting Megan on the spot.
Yeah,
And we're not saying like exact date. We're not like saying, when it's going to drop. Just like
Give us
how,
the
like
moment.
months,
It's gonna
weeks,
come out.
like.
my goal is this week. I was so excited to get this interview, and I want it to sound perfect. So I'm working right now on the audio and the production. And as I think you know, and maybe not all of your listeners know, but I am very new to producing all this stuff myself. So I'm really learning on the job. Ryan has fielded many anxious and nervous texts, messages, and phone calls and FaceTimes with me as I'm learning how to do this. So I'm hoping to push them out soon. I've got 4 interviews I did at Northlands, but the Peter one it's so great, and I'm really excited to talk to or to share it with everybody. And he talks about the Denver Madavon too, which is really fun. So I can't wait to share it. So thank you, Neil, for asking. And I would say within a week.
All right.
I'm just glad we could do the plug there. So, like, if you haven't yet seen this, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Go to
A
the
Moment with
Osiris
Meg.
Media YouTube and find the Moment with Meg interviews, because there are several, and they're all really good.
Yes.
Thanks,
And there's
Neil.
some that are coming that are going to be really good. So
There we go.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, let's talk set break here. John, what were you up to at set break last night?
Waited in a long line for the restroom, and man, inside of that place, it was probably like 120 degrees. I don't know if either of you other guys. That's like the hottest restroom I've ever been in my life.
Yeah,
So that's what I was doing.
When I went to the bathroom during the first set, I like walked in, and then when I walked out, it actually felt cool outside for a few seconds.
Yeah.
That's how hot it was in there.
Yeah.
No ventilation whatsoever.
No, I don't know what they're doing in there.
No, everybody tip the people that work in these bathrooms, because it's very hard to be in there, especially in that kind of heat. So as a summer reminder, especially, I mean, I always do that anyway, but in the summer, that's a hard job.
Don't forget to mix in the water.
That's why you go to the bathroom at the beginning of Butter Rum. You can still make it back for the jam. You don't have to do long lines. We got you some French fries, right?
Seekers 1, also no line for the bathroom. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
we'll get there.
What about you guys? What did you guys do at set break, Megan and Gemma? Besides saying goodbye to part of your family.
Yeah, part of the crew left. Do you want to talk about that?
I think they were just tired, and we did leave like 5 hours early, so then it kind of extended the day by a lot. So
It was
I think
aggressive.
by the time that it was like 9:30, they were kind of done. So yeah, but we just kind of ate fries, hung out.
Yeah, sat
relaxed.
down.
Yeah,
chilled.
definitely sat down.
Relax a
Yeah.
little.
Gemma committed to the second half, and I was really impressed and proud in this heat. And
Awesome.
journalistic integrity right there.
Yeah. No, she was ready. I was very excited to hear yesterday that Gemma had a note ready on her phone, like in the middle of the afternoon, like even before that you left. Yeah, like you were ready before you guys left at 2:00. I'm wondering if you guys hadn't left at 2:00, if everyone would have made it through the full show.
They
I guess
probably
we'll
would
have to know.
have.
I guess we'll
Yeah,
have
Definitely.
I think that was the bad plan, my part. You live and learn with these things. I enjoy a pregame. Maybe it's not for my
It's a
people.
little different when it's 100 degrees.
It's true.
to-
Yeah.
You can't go outside, so
Yeah.
True. Well, yeah, set break, similar experience for me. Went around to see a few people, got some water. I was drinking a lot of water last night, as everyone should have
Yeah.
been. Yeah, oh God, it was crazy. But by the time the sun went down, it definitely got to a much more bearable temperature, which was great.
Yeah.
And we come in for set 2, and the moment we were all waiting for, the big jam happened. They come out for set 2. They play a massive, massive Echo of a Rose. Oh man, I was so happy when this started really getting out there. At this point, some of the Echoes we've heard this year have been like shorter versions. Not totally going out there as much, but I was delighted when this one was, as long as it was. You get a nice pancakes tease from Peter. Shout out to Neil for screwing with me after I tweeted about the pancakes tease from Peter, making me doubt it, making me delete it, and then telling me that he was screwing with me, and that it was actually there, and I was right.
I was lonely.
That's what I get for listening to him.
I had nothing to do. I was like couch touring, and I was just like, I'm just gonna mess with Ryan. And
Well,
he believed
it
me.
was
Like,
you
that's
and
actually like
Jeff.
the shocking part. Is like normally you would be like, yeah, but you actually believed me. So I'm like pretty proud of myself that I convinced you. But it got entered in, and anyway, it made the show notes. It was in the band camp this morning when I looked.
Exactly. So
All's well that ends well. Right?
Yeah, I'm happy that I listened.
Sorry.
But Megan, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this Echo that may or may not have spawned a very excellent Madison Huvon video
Unbelievable.
earlier.
Unbelievable. First of all, Echo of a Rose is one of my favorite Goose songs. And whenever they open a set with it, I always have big hopes. And they delivered majorly. I love this jam so much. It's super rhythmic. Rick was just grooving and dancing the whole time. Again, super driving, like you were saying, John, with Cotter just like pushing the energy forward. Then it develops into this really like songwriting in the moment stuff. It sounded like the soundtrack to an 80s BMX movie. And there's proof of that now on the internet because yes, there was an amazing meme made of, I think it's clips from Rad, which if you've never seen that 80s movie, you're missing out. But it is perfectly timed to the way that it sounds. It's just these really triumphant little crescendos, and you can see the bike riders flipping their bikes and performing.
I just dropped the link in the chat.
You did? Okay.
Watching live. Yeah. Check it out. It's great.
It was amazing. It was so great. And the turnaround on the internet is just unbelievable sometimes, but it's awesome jam, great crescendos, incredible energy throughout. Killer Rick just shredding at the end. But my favorite part of the jam is the way that he and Trevor were talking to each other after the crescendo. They were just going back and forth, looking at each other and just sharing licks. And Trevor, my God, Trevor sounds so good on this tour. Like, yes, whatever you're doing, Trevor, just keep doing it. You sound amazing. I love how turned up in the mix you are. And I can't believe when I looked at the timing this morning that the jam was that long because it went by really fast. It was thrilling. I loved it. Definitely the highlight of the show for me.
Sorry, I was like staying muted because
I'm on mute.
I was watching the video on Twitter.
You're watching the video.
I didn't know it existed yet. So good.
It's so
That's
good,
incredible
right?
that he queued that up that quickly.
While we're here, hashtag
Yeah,
hire
just
Mads.
hire him.
Totally.
It's a
Gemma,
genius.
what did you think of your first big Type 2 jam in person?
I thought it was cool. I think the lights like really are a huge part of it because they really like they keep you like kind of like interested in like to like look at the stage instead of just like I know my mom's big on dancing. Like instead of kind of like being in your own world, it kind of like takes you back into the stage while they're just like on their instruments. But I think it was really cool and it was really like impressive how they can like make like the crazy sounds for like 30 minutes and make it feel like 5.
Yeah.
I'm glad you loved it. That's good. John, what did you think of the Echo?
That's awesome. I loved it. I thought it started off, kind of the initial part of it went so hard. I was kind of thinking maybe this was only going to be, kind of a shorter jam because it was going so hard in the beginning. But like Megan said, Rick found a really awesome theme there in the middle of the jam, and the whole thing kind of coalesced around that, which was really cool to see. And then I kind of thought around the 20-minute or so mark, it was heading back, and they kind of just kept playing off that kind of different chord progression there at the end, and it was really beautiful. I thought Rick's playing in the last couple minutes was just really soulful and beautiful, and it kind of almost reminded me a little bit of like a Derek Trucks type vibe. I know he wasn't playing with a slide, but it was just really soulful and just really beautiful. Those last few minutes there, so I really enjoyed it. For me, it was definitely the highlight of the show. I love the song as well. So yeah, it was great to get a jam like that for sure.
Mm-hmm. My dad also mentioned the Derek Trucks thing to me last night. This is not the first time. I think that kind of playing popped up in Atlanta as well at one point. So yeah, Rick is playing so well right now. Yeah. Neil?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have words to describe this jam yet. I think it's one, it's really good. Two, it is incredibly unique. And like, I don't know. I think this might be one of the most creative jams they've played on this tour. And
Wow.
I really mean it. I think it lacks like the dramatic highs
Mm-hmm.
to some degree or another. Like, I don't know if there's like little earworms in there that are gonna, make you kind of really like perk your head up and be like, but there's just something about this. It's multifaceted. It's got a lot of like really interesting, really thoughtful parts, some like excellent full band jamming. It's all like super good stuff. And I think this jam's gonna be a slow burn for people. So it's not like the other night you see that Arrow in Atlanta and you're like, this is it. This is one of the best they've played all year long. I think this one is one of the best they've played.
You think that now? You've changed your mind?
What? I'm sorry. Might change my mind about what?
I'll pull the receipts. You think the Arrow is one of the best jams of the year now? Because that's not what you were saying yesterday.
No, I'm saying the collective you had this to say.
Okay.
So the collective you, they were all like, yeah. So like, this immediately comes to mind as like, this is a jam of the year. I think this one is like a really slow burn kind of a jam. And I think a lot of people are going to come around on this one. And, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, months out from now, when we're talking about this stuff, I think folks will remember this one.
Neil, it reminds me.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say. Go ahead, John. You.
Rock, paper, scissors, go.
I was just going to say I struggled to put notes down on this one. To your point, Neil, it's kind of hard to describe. It's a little bit nebulous. It's like kind of the dancing about architecture thing kind of came to mind on this one. But it was really creative. It was really interesting. I feel like it was really different. Sorry to cut you off, Megan.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off twice. Neil, I was just reminded me of what you and I were talking about at Northlands after the Goose show about how diverse their jamming's been on this tour. Like thinking about the big jams like the Pancakes from Raleigh or the Denver Madavon or the Arrow from Atlanta or last night's Echo, like they're all very diverse. And that's so exciting and just a thrilling space for the band to be in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite things that they do also is when they'll hit a big peak like this with Peter kind of drenching it in synth, like you have that like kind of drone happening underneath. Reminds me of something like that. I think it's the Louisville Redbird from last year. You have that crazy peak just with that synth coming in the whole time. And so there was kind of that kind of vibe for part of the Echo last night. I also loved the way that they brought it back around to the end, not needing to force the sandwich. Rick kind of has a tendency to sometimes bring the ending back in a little bit prematurely. I think so. Good that, there were a couple of times where I thought he was like stepping up to the mic to do it, but he kept going. And I think, despite being really tired, the amount of fun that they were having on stage during this jam again was still carried over from Atlanta. The band is just so happy playing right now, and they are having such an amazing time on stage, which is such a delight to see from the audience, every night. Anyway, next up, we get everyone's favorite second set cool down, Seekers, followed by Madavon, Secret Agent Man, Madavon. They're kind of getting close to curfew at this point. And so when they started Madavon, I was like, oh, maybe they're going to give us, a nice 20-minute Madavon and then, a quick encore. But, big secret agent man bust out. 240 shows. Last time played 11/6/20 at South Farms. Really crazy bust out. Yeah, I did go to the bathroom during Seekers. Shout out to Murphy, Greg, Kevin, who I walked by their box and they were like waiting for me, like how like Haps, Trop, and them were like waiting at Fiddlers for me to walk by when I was going to the bathroom. But yeah, you know what? Just for the record, I was drinking a lot of water and I needed to go to the bathroom, and that was a good opportunity for me to go to the bathroom. But
I'm glad we can do a 5-minute segment on you going to the bathroom every time they play this song.
of course,
You know,
So important.
lucky us.
we all have our bits.
It should probably be a first hit song, but it was in that spot. I was kind of like, they just played like a almost 30-minute jam, so you know it's all good.
It is okay to like Seekers, and I love part 2. Shout out to Connor's dance moves during part 2. They were pretty good. Running up and down the aisle. The usher was not pleased about them, but they were entertaining for me. Gemma, what did you think of Connor's dance moves during Seekers?
Yeah, it was definitely entertaining. Kept my attention. He was, very fun. I don't think the guards agreed that it was fun dance moves because, they didn't like that. But he came in front of us because we had a lot of people cleared out of the row, so he was dancing there. Yeah.
What did you think of the song?
Right?
I couldn't really tell the different songs were. No, I think I liked it. Oh yeah, I wrote. Wait, second song, very good. I liked that one.
There you go.
Speakers.
Nice.
Good notes. That one is lyrically very interesting though. So someone like you who is, listening for that sort of thing. There's a lot to dig into there. Colorado, breathe it in. Megan, you got any thoughts here?
Yeah, I didn't mind Seekers there. I actually don't mind Seekers in general. I think it's a beautiful suite, those two together. It's really nice, especially when it's placed like this. And I agree with John. Anytime you're going to play a 30-minute jam, you get to do whatever you want next. That's just the way it goes. Those are the rules. And it's not like this interrupted the flow of the set at all. And I think they brought back the energy really strongly in Madhavan. And I thought Secret Ancient Man was so fun, and Rick was having a blast and just like playing so incredibly fast. And it just, I took some video of Rick last night, and it's unbelievable watching him play on this tour. Obviously we all know Rick's an incredible guitar player, but he just really, his dexterity is just out of control. He's just playing so cleanly. His phrasing is incredible, and he's able to play really fast, really, really well. And it's just exciting to see him.
Mhm.
He looks so in shape. I was like, do we need to give Rick some carbs? Like, he's so cut right now. Like he definitely is. He's working out and it looks great. So keep it up, Rick. It's super strong. And
A lot of sleeveless shows happening on this tour.
yeah, and he had some cool pants
It
on
seems
that
like
were pushed up, like not shorts, but like pushed up to be like shorts under his knees, kind of like Mike Gordon in the 90s. It was kind of a cool look. So
But in a cool way. Yeah.
yeah, in a cool way, right? And
Like
he had
Mike
a shirt on.
Gordon, but
Who
it's
was on his
like-
shirt too last night? He had he had someone on his shirt last night. That was kind of funny.
Picard. Oh yeah, last night was sleeveless Picard night.
Yeah.
We were
So
wondering if anybody knows, if anyone is somehow watching this who might know, does Rick have a second Picard shirt with no sleeves, or did he cut the sleeves off his other Picard shirt?
Oh, it used to have sleeves.
Well, he
Oh.
has a T-shirt that is a Picard shirt.
Oh.
And Picard was, I saw a comment about it earlier, Picard was the Earthling or alien keyword last night. So
Oh, well, if
Wow.
you have arms like that,
For those
maybe
who
you just cut off all the sleeves on your shirts.
there you go. I love Gemma's facial reaction while you're talking about Rick's arms. That's pretty good. Then we get Secret Agent Madhavan here. Fun bust out. I will say I was initially a little bit disappointed because as I said before, I was looking for, a big Madhavan jam here. But I like the fact that they played this. There have been a lot of bust outs on this tour. A lot of covers that haven't been played in a while. So, will Cross-Eyed happen? Who knows? But
I was sad when I heard that during step break music. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, because I've never heard Goose
Yeah.
play that. I would really love to hear them play that. So I was a little disappointed.
Becca, friend of the pod, Becca claims that the sleeves were cut. Does she have an inside source? We don't know.
Who knows? I mean, maybe it's a start of like a thing. You know, everybody at Goose shows is going to show up sleeveless. So take a look in Portland. We might have sleeveless Ryan Storm walking
Yeah, that's
around.
funny.
I don't know.
I don't have the
If
arms
it happens,
for
I'll
that.
get pictures.
My arms
Post
do not
on
look
the
like
internet.
Rick's arms. I'll tell you that. I can't pull off.
This is where we need Lisa here to say he's not athletic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need the soundbite of that, of her saying he's not athletic.
I'm
Neil
telling you,
Trigger.
the air horn and like that, it's just going to be like Frasco's podcast, and we're just going to start doing drive time radio bits. It's going to be fantastic.
That's great.
Anyway, yeah. Who else has thoughts on Madhavan, Secret Agent Man, Madhavan?
I mean, this is a pretty.
Yeah, I
fiery
thought it was.
Go ahead.
It was. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
No worries.
Yeah, I thought the really short first jam section, you know, they usually kind of space out there and it's like, you know, a little bit psychedelic or whatever. They really kind of went crazy there for a second. And then of course the Secret Agent Man was fun. I think they've been teasing it a little bit here and there the last week or two, and so it was cool to hear it. And then really that last part of the jam there, after they kind of brought it back, man, Rick just really went off and was really shredding there at the end, and it was pretty cool to hear that. I was kind of hoping for a bigger jam as well, but it was fun for sure.
Awesome. Neil?
Yeah, just like what I was saying, that Madhavan was pretty fiery. It's any opportunity for Rick to just shred. I think you are in for something that's really cool, especially in light of the fact that I think there are times when you're just retreading the same ground and it's the same riffs and the same stuff. And it's just, he is, you know, to use like a sports analogy, he's like a hitter in baseball who just can't seem to miss the ball, right? Everything he just crushes. And I think that must be what it's like for him right now, where it's just, it's not even, it can't even feel hard. Like it's just, he's uninhibited. It's just coming out, right? And it's all different and it's not repetitive. And so this is killer. Like, is it, you know, like a big exploration of a jam? No. Was it awesome? Yes. Really, really cool. Little tidbit. The last Secret Agent Man, which was like a bajillion years ago, was my 4th show ever.
Ooh.
I saw
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's neat.
Back in the day.
And also, like, was surprised they ever played it again. It's just
Yeah,
a weird
it
song to
teases
throw
it
into
so
your
much.
set.
He teases
What?
it so much.
Yeah.
We just had a
Well, and
Secret Agent Man tease on Saturday. Like
Right. And he and Peter both have teased it dozens and dozens of times over the years. It's just a weird one that somehow gets into their heads, and I don't know, they end up playing it.
It must be fun to play. It's a fun song. It's funny, right?
Yeah.
There we go. And then we encore with Arcadia. Perfect choice for the encore here. Very excited to see this. We get that nice 3-chord bliss progression that they love so much in this. Pretty hosey, nice OB6 work. And I wanted to highlight here the way that Rick uses the wah pedal, because he kind of lives in the middle of the wah a lot of the time, instead of, you know, doing like a full sweep. I feel like he only like kind of moves it a little bit from the middle. And I feel like that's pretty unique. Just in terms of sound and the way that his guitar goes. Some nice Nebula teases from him again, you know, little TED tapes. Second time this year that showed up in Arcadia. But let's go to you.
Hey, can we talk about that really quick before we move on?
Yes,
So,
sorry.
like, I don't know if it's Nebula teases so much.
He did clarify with Peter that it is.
Yeah, but like, isn't it Nebula teases, or is it just the way that they play Arcadia now? Because it feels
that's
like
the second time he's done it this year. I would say that doesn't mean that. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Awesome.
I would say that doesn't necessarily mean that that's in every Arcadia. You know, if it starts showing up in every version, then we have that conversation.
But
it
just makes you wonder.
I think it's just a riff he likes.
Nebula came from an Arcadia jam, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually nearly positive it did at this point, but it's just weird. It's one of those things that's like bordering on like, is this like a tease of like another thing, or is this like a jam that like he's really into in the song? You know what I mean?
Right.
So not saying that it's not a tease, but just wanted to bring up that point that it's maybe more than a tease, and maybe it's something else too. I don't know.
Well, it's a little of a chicken or an egg situation. If Nebula came from an Arcadia jam, then if they play that in Arcadia, is it? Yeah,
then it's an Arcadia jam, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's my thing.
Yeah, Gemma, what did you think of the last song of the night?
Well, right before they started playing it, she turned to me. She was like, "If this is Arcadia, I'll be so happy." And then it was. So I thought We listened to that song a lot in COVID too. It's just like playing a lot around my house, so I kind of knew that song, and so I definitely liked it. I thought it was really good.
Awesome. John, your thoughts on Arcadia?
It was a blast. I love when they go to that chord progression that you were talking about, Ryan. That like just super rock and roll chord progression. You hear it, every once in a while in Arcadia, and it's always a lot of fun.
Buffalo.
I think of the one with Trey. Yeah. But it was a blast. I thought the very last part of the jam, when they kind of go back into those closing chords, that had a little bit something extra at the end of it, and it was really fun. It kind of sent the whole show out on a super high note.
Yeah, agreed. Anyone
Yeah, I
else have
definitely
any
agree.
final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with John. I think there was a really triumphant feeling to the end of that Arcadia jam that felt just really great. I was actually surprised when I saw the timing on that too. I thought it was a lot shorter than it was in the moment, but that song is one of my favorite. It's the first Goose song that I loved, and I love the lyrics, and I haven't heard it in a little while, and I was so excited to hear it, and I thought they did it justice last night. Like nice juicy little funk jam and great clav, and just that triumphant feeling of just felt great. It felt like they kind of just put a pin on it, and it was interesting. It was it wasn't overall my favorite show, but I feel like there was still this monster jam and so many good moments, and I think that's been happening a lot on this tour where they're just playing really consistently.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Amazing.
a really good way to end the show. I thought it was good, like ending, because it was like 15 minutes, so it was kind of long, but it also wasn't too long that you were like, oh, I'm getting tired, I want to go. And it's just like a good way to like end with like high energy.
That's where you and I differ. I wouldn't get
Absolutely.
tired if they wanted to play a 25-minute
Exactly. She'll get there. She'll get there.
Oh,
Like
she'll
her
get
first
there.
30-minute jam.
I'm very happy for you, John and Gemma, that you guys both got to see your first Goose show. Hopefully first of many. Very exciting.
Sure.
Thank you guys for joining us today. Megan, of course, always a pleasure to have you on the pod. It's been great. Neil, are you ready to see Goose?
See a lot of Goose in a short period of time. Yeah.
Yes, Neil is gonna get a very good night's sleep tonight because we're about to do 6 shows in 6 days. It's gonna be a lot of
Hell
fun.
yeah.
Neil might not be alive.
Come next Monday, but let this be.
We might not hear from him for a few days next week as he recovers. But it's gonna be a fun week. Ready for some earlier shows too. That's gonna be fun. That might help, Neil. They're going to be done at 10:30 for a lot of these nights.
Regular bedtime. Yeah, it's going to be great.
But it's going to be fun. I'm excited to be up here in Portland. I'm excited to see Thompson's Point tomorrow. I've seen so many amazing things about it. But it's going to be a blast. We got 5 shows left on the tour. And of course, today, we'd be remiss if we did not talk about the new tour dates that got announced today, because there are a lot of new dates that got announced today, including Goosemas in Charleston, which I cannot wait for. That's going to be an absolute blast. Night Zero Band is coming back. Shout out to Chateau Jam. Brian made me promise that if he showed up, that I would shout it out, and he showed up. A lot of tour dates coming. First Florida run really outside of Okeechobee and Halloween happened, but these are the first headlining Goose dates in Florida since 2017, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard great things about where they're playing. Looking at heading down there, my birthday in Washington, D.C. at the Anthem, which Getty said in an interview in the El Goose Times from a few years ago. That's his bucket list venue. So excited to see what they do there. Of course, Salt Shed, 3 nights in Boston for Neil, right in smack dab in the middle of the week earlier in the school year.
Goose really loves like putting the screws to educators, where it's just like
So
first
brutal.
like 3 school days of the year. 3-night run in Boston. Let's go.
And then it's back that weekend just to
back that weekend. It's gonna be brutal, but
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I can't wait. I'm very happy that they announced this new batch of dates and Goosemas. It's gonna be fun. All right. Well, everybody enjoy your day off from tour. I know the band is probably sleeping and getting some much needed relaxation so they can come out hot tomorrow in Portland. It's going to be awesome. Thanks again, guys, for joining us today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a fantastic rest of your Monday, and we'll see you Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. to recap Portland Night 1. See you next time. Thanks again.